And we're live. Let me get a quick picture. Throw it on the story. How about Notre Dame, bro?
Are they winning? I'm not paying attention to it.
Yeah, they won. At one point, they were up like, I think at halftime, they were up like 17-3. Pretty interesting.
Oh, is it over?
Yeah. Yeah, they played at 4.
Wow. Good for them.
Yeah, because they they had to postpone it because of that truck that, did you see where that truck plowed through a bunch of people
Yeah.
in New
I did see
Orleans?
that. Yeah.
It's crazy. And then supposedly he had I don't know how true this is, but supposedly he had like and we lost him. Yeah, supposedly he had like a ISIS flag in his truck. Again, don't know how true that is. There he is. We got him back.
Go ahead and say what you said again.
Um, Apparently there was like a ISIS flag or something in his truck. Now how true that is, I really don't know. Then I saw something a minute
It
ago,
was
like,
military for us,
yeah, U.S. Army, I think.
which makes
Um,
me believe the ISIS thing.
yeah, he there was something. Hang on, sorry, I'm trying to get us tagged in this post. All right, should be good. There was something else that I saw. I think it was in front of Trump Tower in Las Vegas. There was a cyber truck that a guy had a bomb inside, and apparently the dude shot himself and then blew up his car in front of Trump Hotel.
Jesus.
I was like, dude, what in the world? Add the story. All right, we are good.
Now, if this goes down as a terrorist attack, does that mean war is going to happen?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think it's interesting
what did
too.
9/11 start?
When did 9/11 start?
No. What did it start?
Oh yeah, it started
The war in Iraq.
war in Iraq. Yeah, that is true.
I mean, this isn't 9/11 proportions, but
It's still American lives.
A terrorist attack.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
you have to, in a way. I mean, you have to act. I mean, you can't. I don't know. I guess it. I don't know. I do think it's all very interesting. Like right here at like the time of the year that is. Like Trump's about to be sworn in. I don't know when, but I know it's coming soon.
Doing this?
I wouldn't say that, but I just think it's ironic that the timing of it. But it would not surprise me, no. I don't know. I can tend to be I know we've kind of said it before. I really don't know if you can consider a lot of things conspiracy anymore, but I tend to side a lot with the conspiracy theories, especially the major ones.
What's the conspiracy theory with this?
That the Democrats would be behind it.
Okay.
Or I don't want to. It's kind of hard because you can't really put all Democrats in with the really far left, just like you can't put all conservatives with the far right people. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I don't want to use Democrats, but far left, the left, the way left, which would not surprise me. Wasn't was it the Texas basic training? Didn't he have something to do with ISIS, or am I incorrect?
Talking about the guy that killed Chris Kyle?
No, but that one's pretty wild. I'm talking about the guy. I think it was in Texas. He went on some kind of base and killed like Fort Hood. That's it, Fort Hood. He killed a bunch of people, I'm pretty sure, and he was active military, I think. But I don't know, Kenneth. Do you know if he had any ties to ISIS? Are you familiar?
Okay, that's familiar.
An army psychiatrist. Oh, that's even more interesting. What do you think? Obviously, I think at the root of it, I guess I'm kind of answering this, but at the root of it, I think it's most of these things are like a spiritual issue. But so I guess that does
Full blown
answer it.
ISIS, not even like a little ISIS.
Oh, he was,
but full blown. That's rough.
I think it's weird that like ISIS pops up and goes out like randomly. Like you won't hear anything about them. I honestly
did not think ISIS was a thing anymore. I thought they were done. I guess.
And I think it's one of those things because I've always thought, if there's people like this that are threatening the Americans, why don't you just go just blow them off the face of the earth? But then I think ISIS is one of those groups that they have little pockets everywhere. Like they kind of, from what I understand, they recruit a lot of like your Antifa style people. I don't know if Antifa would be a form or a branch of ISIS, but I think something like that would be. I guess that's why they still keep popping up. But then again, nowadays it's kind of hard because if you go bombing somebody, like everybody's got these huge bombs now. So you don't want to. The last thing you would want to do would start a nuclear war.
Mm-hmm. Can you imagine if a truck running over people started a nuclear war?
That's insane. Like, not to say that those 11 people aren't important, but can you, like you said, 11 people starting,
and then we just nuke the fire out of Iran or Iraq, wherever it's coming from, wherever that guy's.
Dude, there's a podcast episode that I listened to not too long ago. I think it was one of the Sean Ryan shows, and it was a guy, and he was talking about the nuclear war or the threat of nuclear war, and he was saying that once the nuclear war starts, because of the like how big and because of what offsets when this person tries to blow up this person and all these defense missiles and all, when all of that starts, in a nutshell, he kind of said it's not going to end until the world's over. Like the chain reactions and the way that the atmosphere and all is with all of these nuclear bombs going off, he was like, it's not gonna, it won't end. So whoever does the first one, they're kind of like sealing the deal for everybody, which is interesting. Yeah. Do you think that?
Though, I think the statement that if World War III happens, then World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. Like, I think that's a really good saying because it's too much. There's too big of bombs there's too much stuff now that would just reach everybody.
Which makes you wonder, like, I'm starting a thing. I started it this morning. It's through the month of January. It's going through every book of Revelation and kind of explaining everything. And I say that to say, the book of Revelation, most of the book talks about end time prophecy and all that. Mm-hmm. And it makes you think, like, with the way everything is now, technically a World War III would pretty much have to involve nuclear weapons. So it kind of makes you wonder if, and kind of, I guess it is probably pretty fair to say that the end time is probably going to happen before a World War III would happen. Wouldn't you say?
The Antichrist is supposed to bring peace with everybody, right? Like that's
so I don't see how that could happen.
Supposed as the second coming of God, and everybody's under one religion, and everybody, right? Like all that stuff is supposed to happen. So, I mean, everybody can't die for that to happen.
Exactly. That's kind of my thoughts. Unless it's like, unless the fuse is getting really close to the start 3, and then he rises up and he's like, I'm going to diffuse this situation. And you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. I get super into stuff like that. I'm excited. I've never truly went through the book of Revelation, so I'm pretty interested to see what I learned through it.
What chapter are you on?
Today was the first day. Well, it technically started yesterday, but when I signed up, it like sends out emails or whatever, and I signed up yesterday, and it started mine today. So it was just chapter 1, which is pretty basic. Just talks about John and how he was exiled to Patmos, and then how he saw the vision, and that's kind of where it stopped. Like he saw Jesus, and Jesus was saying, write down everything that you've seen, and then I think chapter 2 and 3 goes into the different churches, and then after that 4 through the end, I think is all end time prophecies.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that'll be pretty cool. It was actually cool. So as I was reading it, one thing that kind of that really stuck out was, I guess I've never really thought about it, but so John, like you could arguably say that Revelation is one of the most informational and one of the more important. I mean, obviously all of the books are important, but based on what the times that we're in now, based on the information that's in it, Revelation is a very big, important part of, I guess, proving the validity of the Bible, like the way it goes back with Daniel, and all these different prophecies are being fulfilled. And anyways, like all the information that's in Revelation, I think it's interesting that the Lord gave it to John literally right before his life was ending. Like John spent his whole life, from the time that he became a disciple, spent his whole life walking with the Lord, and the Lord allowed him to go through all this persecution and all these trials, getting, what was it? He was the one they tried to burn him alive or pour tar on him.
Oiled. He was putting on that oil.
They tried to kill him, and so finally they just said, just go over here, like just be gone, whatever. So, the Lord let him go through all that, and then gave him all this information that is one of the more information filled, I guess would be the only way I could really explain it, books of the Bible. One of the more complex, I guess that would be a good word. I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, I think I could for John for sure. I feel like I could argue it's one of the least important books also.
How so?
Because it's the end of times, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is what's going to happen at the end of the world, right? But this is not how you get saved. This is not salvation. This is just what's going to happen that we have no hand in. There is nothing that applies to you at all. This is just what's going to happen. Right? These are all visions.
That makes sense.
These are all visions that God is giving John to put down in Revelations, and like that, this is what's going to be the end of the world. Right? In no way does that like lead somebody to salvation.
Yeah,
it just tells you what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So like it doesn't, and there's nowhere in there where it's like you need to live your life like this, like, right? Like there's not. It's just like seals are broken, like trumpets are sounded, dragons are being seen, Our rapture is happening. Like, cool, that's us, right? And then you got tribulation, not so cool. And then the millennium reign, and then devil gets out of his pit, and then there's a big fight, and then Jesus throws him into the lake of fire, and then everybody else who's not saved, who sides with the devil, is in the lake of fire, and then that's eternity, right? If you fully believe in the Bible, which like obviously we do, right? Revelations does not apply to your life. It just tells you what's going to happen, right? Now you can use it to like scare somebody, sure, because that is what's going to happen, right? 100% that's going to happen. And when the end of times are here, you absolutely can use Revelations. It's like, this is the point, this is the mark, this is the like do not do this. It's said right here, right? It's very clear as day. But that's not salvation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree with
that. That's how I look. And that might be like a down. I know people love Revelations, but like they love it because it's the end of the world. They love it because it's the end of the story, right? Like it's Jesus conquering the devil, right? It's a great story book. And like if it's going to happen in the future, it's freaking awesome. Right, but that doesn't save you. And like Ken's saying, like, the Left Behind series, great books. I wish they made more movies. The movie's pretty corny, but I'm roll with the movies. I want to see Nikolai get what's coming to him. They stopped right when Nikolai got to power, made no more movies, and I hate that. Right? I get it. Left Behind series, great series. And no, like that's not Jesus.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean? I like that. That's how I feel about Revelation. It's important. You should know it. You should know it, but it's not going to lead somebody to salvation. I'll put it like that. And like we're ranking stuff in importance. Don't get me wrong. It's probably more important than like freaking Deuteronomy, but that's more just like a personal Orthodox bias right there. You know what I mean? Or what's that? Christianic belief bias.
Well, this could lead into an interesting question. What would you say, personally speaking, taking what you just said into account, what would you say you would personally believe to be the most important book? Or
I think
if you had to pick one. Yeah.
Whichever
I was
going to
say the Gospels are
like whichever one you think is the most, the one that resonates with you. I would say the Gospels. Like I know Matthew's probably the book that it's probably the most read book in all of the Bible. It's probably Matthew, or Genesis, but like that's just because and that's probably good because Matthew is the most detailed written, right? John gets in his feelings a little bit whenever he writes his books, but like I like John the best. I think John, it reads like a story a little bit better. Like it's an easier read than Matthew. And it's a story of Jesus Christ. It's the only story that I need to know. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's important to know everything, but it's the only one that I need to know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I think you're really making Grant mad.
Well, I mean, Grant can't do double unders, so like we're all upset at something,
Angry Grant today. That's funny. No, I agree with that. I think if you have somebody like to his point earlier. Let's see. Every new Christian or interested seeker, I'm gonna read Revelation first. Yeah, that's a horrible idea. And I think if you have somebody, a non-believer that's asking, well, where should I start? I mean, obviously, I think a very good starting point would be one of the Gospels, or depending on, I think you could also say depending on where their belief system is. I mean, if they're, I don't know, because Genesis can be a good start too, because it starts with creation. I think you kind of have to feel out where they're at spiritually, like are they like completely against all of it, or are they just, are they Christian? A new Christian, I think, like you said, Matthew or John is probably the best place to start, because that shows. I mean, it shows. Matthew does a really good job of showing Jesus's ministry, showing the red letters, showing the Beatitudes, like all the different steps, and all the, basically, do this and don't do this. Like, this is what Jesus said to do. This is how he said. You know what I'm saying? I think that's probably going to be your best bet as far as the way to live. Now, I think if you have somebody questioning,
my second favorite book's Proverbs. I think, I mean, Proverbs is the book of wisdom. Yeah. Proverbs is amazing. As far as Proverbs is probably the number one book where you pull one verse from. Right? I bet more people have cherry picked verses from Proverbs than any other book.
He is beside himself.
Grant, you're telling me that Deuteronomy is on the same level as one of the Gospels of importance. That's what you're saying.
Deuteronomy 30:14. I will look that up right now. Dang, I literally flipped to the page before that. Deuteronomy 30:14. No, the message is very close at hand. It is on your lips and in your heart, so that you can obey it. Now listen, today I am giving you a choice between life and death, between prosperity and disaster. For I command you this day to love the Lord your God, and to keep his commands, decrees, and regulations by walking in his ways. If you do this, you will live and multiply, and the Lord your God will bless you and the land you are about to enter and occupy. But if your heart turns away and you refuse to listen, and if you are drawn away to serve and worship other gods, then I warn you now that you will certainly be destroyed. You will not live a long, good life in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to occupy. Yes, that's a great passage. But the thing that I could say is, in 16 it says, "For I command you this day to love your Lord your God and keep all his commands and decrees." But you're getting his commands and decrees from Matthew. You know what I mean?
Watch drop. Boom. Oh, Grant, Romans 10:6. I got that pulled up for you. For it is with your heart that you believe and are justified, and it is with your mouth that you profess your faith and are saved. Okay. I don't know what you're trying to argue. This is Paul talking to the Romans. Like, I don't know what you're trying to argue. I think Kenneth hit it on the head here.
I like Romans a lot too.
Romans is a great book.
Philippians is probably one of my favorite books. I love Philippians. Paul, dude, he's just.
I'm a big Corinthians fan.
He's a jam up guy.
Yeah, I mean, Paul's pretty great. Paul's got a lot of hits to him. I would say Paul is like the Beatles, you know. Like, like Revelations. You know what Revelations is? Revelations is semisonic with closing time, right? Everybody knows it. You've read it a million times. It's one hit, right? And it comes on. It's a banger. But we should do this next time. Next podcast, we should rank books of the Bible to music or to artists, right? And then just all of them. Well, I got to get Spin to show you how to make a chart. But that's what we should do. We should rank books of the Bible in that way.
Ooh. This is good.
Oh, boom.
This is good.
Yeah, you hear this, Grant? Are you hearing this? Christians should remind others that Vipor 97 is reminding you, Grant, to stop fighting over words, as these arguments are useless and can ruin those who hear them. Now, I'm hoping that is applying to the current topic at hand and not to my profession, because all I do is argue with people and debate and make my own opinions. So that's rough to hear if that's at me, but eye-opening.
See what your dad said. Not everyone thinks that all Christians are going to be raptured, which the rest of the Bible gives faith in knowing how it's all going to end. Yeah, there's an interesting. It's interesting, like the pre-tribbers, post-tribbers, mid-tribbers. Which I don't know enough to. I don't know enough.
No, I don't either. I think people are on like very, very smart people are on all three sides of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Smart theologians, I think.
Yeah, not that specific, like stuff like that. I don't think that doesn't
matter.
I don't think that matters.
That's how I feel. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it doesn't. Well, you know what matters? If you have Jesus in your heart and you believe that he died on the cross and that he is God's son and he is God, that's what matters. That's the only thing that matters. And then the rest of the Bible is how you should live your life. The Old Testament reinforces the New Testament. Ironically, it works. It kind of works counterintuitive. It's kind of beautiful the way that works. And then Revelations is what happens at the end. There is no calling number. This is a low budget podcast, Grant.
Yeah. I can give you my cell phone number.
Yeah. Brock doesn't even know how to invite me to be
No, I did. It says it's still pending.
I know. I couldn't pull up comments if I wasn't. I know, but it took 10 weeks to figure out how to make me one of the lead hosts. You think he's going to be able to do a call-in number?
Hey, we'll get there. We will get there. Get Grant on the show. Hey, I can send you a link.
No, I don't want this to be the Grant show. Don't give him a link.
Oh,
Grant's got his own. He's got his own religious podcast. I'm on it, and we haven't scheduled anything in a long time.
It is good.
Here, let's talk about this on your podcast, Grant. Huh? Let's do that.
John can't handle another alpha. That's good stuff.
Hey, real talk. I have a good friend of mine. And he's not a great talker, but we're working on it. I would argue that you're not a great talker, and we're working.
Yeah.
And I think he should be a part of the podcast.
All right.
He's one of the best Christian men that I know.
No, I'm game.
Okay, we'll just leave that.
Yep.
We'll just let people guess who that is. There's probably 2 people in the whole world who know who I'm talking about, which is super, super fun. Leslie, don't say it. Dad, don't say it. Those are the two people.
So those are the two people.
That's it.
No, I'm good with that. Yeah, that's cool with me. I can't remember where I was going with that. Now that
important books of the Bible. Here, I tell you what. Here, like, give me your top 5 books of the Bible. You're only allowed to read 5 books. Give me you are only allowed to read 5 books for the rest of your life. What books are you picking?
definitely Matthew. I like Luke because I think Luke does, which
a little bit of a different perspective.
Yeah, and I really like Luke's account of like the Christmas story, the birth, and all that. But I really think if you could only, now this is just my opinion, if you could only pick one, or if you could only pick 5 books, I think, now people may argue me on this. I think you should only pick one of the Gospels because you're getting relatively the same information.
I agree.
So I would probably say, I guess for me, Matthew. So we're gonna go Matthew, Romans, Philippians. Oh, that's tough. Matthew, Romans, Philippians. Of an Old Testament. I'd probably say Genesis. So what's that? Matthew, Romans, Philippians, Genesis, and I need one more. Psalms, man. I need to, and I personally, I've got to get better about reading Psalms. Like I think Psalms is very, I don't want to say overlooked, but I guess overlooked would be a word for it. Yeah, that's me. Matthew, Romans, Philippians, Genesis, and Psalms.
Okay. I'm gonna roll with John as my gospel. And then I'm gonna rock with Hebrews.
Hebrews is a good one.
Yeah, you got the Faith Hall of Fame in Hebrews. Basically, it retells you everybody that you need to know, which is kind of cool, right?
Hebrews is good. I should look at Hebrews.
I'm gonna rock with Proverbs. I'm gonna rock with 1 Corinthians because it's got a lot of stuff in there that just hits home for me, just like my personal sin, right? Not to the extent the Corinthians are doing, but like it just I like 1 Corinthians a lot. My favorite verse in the whole Bible comes from 1 Corinthians. It's 1 Corinthians 10:15. For I've worked harder than all of them. This is Paul talking about the Gospels. I've worked harder than all of them, but it is not I that does it. It's God who is letting me do it. Right? I could not do anything without God. Essentially, is what he's saying. Even though he's able to work harder than all of the other Gospels and achieve more than the other Gospels as far as putting your Bible together. And then my last one. Well, I only got Proverbs from the Old Testament, right? Let me give me Exodus, just because that's a fun read.
Dude, that's a good one. I think this is something good to highlight, and because I think a lot of people struggle in this area, and to be 100% honest, I struggle in this area.
Why? Like what's you say your attention span won't let you. So like where are you starting? Where are you trying to read? And then what is where it's attention span, you just get bored. Like that totally fine. But like where are you trying to read is what I like, where you're trying to start. I get it, Jose. I get retaining information, but like tell me like what book are you trying to read that's like this is rough? Because maybe it's just you need to get in the habit. And like if it's getting in the habit, like I have no issue with telling people, hey, read these 5 books first, because it will like get you in the mode of reading the Bible, and they're more of a story, like even like it's like David and Goliath, like you're reading it. You know what I mean? And then that can help you read other books or like get through them. You know what I'm saying? Now the ones where it's like this guy was a father to this guy, who's a father to this guy, who's a father to this guy, those are pretty rough. Won't lie to you, but yeah, and I mean, you can't go wrong with the Gospels. You can't go wrong with the Gospels. It's not, you will, if you're curious, if you're a Christian, but if you're not a Christian, you're just curious, like learning about why this Jesus guy is such a big deal is the greatest thing you could do. Okay, Grant, I'm going to wrench you in a minute. I'm going to block you from commenting on this channel if you have any kind of blasphemy like this ever again.
Yeah, that's rough. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, is kind of trying to keep it fresh. Because I mean, it's like with anything else. I mean, if you're getting burned out at the gym, switch it up. Try something. Try adding something. Try substituting something. I mean, if you're trying to read through Leviticus and you don't feel like you're getting anything from it, move on to Matthew, Mark, Luke. Like start somewhere that ensures the basics. Like just
and it might help, Jose. It might help a little bit to do a little research into the book before you start reading it, because what helps me, and I don't mean like you got to go do homework. That's not what I'm talking about at all. But like it helps me sometimes when I'm like, okay, this is Paul talking to the people of Corinth, or like Acts, like Jesus just died, right? And all the Gospels, and like it's kind of taboo to be a Christian. They're killing Christians. And all the Gospels, they're all trying to be hush, hush, hush about Christianity. They're trying to spread it, but in a very like secret way, right? Because they're killing Christians. And like if you just start reading Acts, you don't get any of that. Like you just kind of like, okay, what's happening, right? But like if you do a little research into what the book is about before you start reading, or the context, or what just happened before, like, or what's going to happen after, like all that stuff, it helps to read the book, because it's history. It's how you should live your life, but it's also history of Jesus Christ and his God and his followers, right? And like it helps to do a little research into it first. It helps me at least.
I would say
we just said our top 5.
Yeah, start with the Gospels. Start Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, one of those 4. That's where I would start. Again, like we said a little bit ago, that just kind of gives you the basics on how a Christian should live their life.
And it's those 4 books are Jesus's life.
Yeah, gives you the teachings of
4
Jesus.
different perspectives.
Yeah, that's where I would start. I mean, Genesis is good. Again, Genesis, Exodus. Definitely don't start in Leviticus. Yeah, that would be my.
I'd be curious if that's where most gay people start.
In Leviticus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
the big verse. Yeah. Like every gay person hears about is Leviticus, right? There's 6 different verses that say that homosexuality is a sin or an abomination or whatever you want to word it. But every person has probably been shouted down at, and wrongfully so. They shouldn't be. But like the verse in Leviticus. So if you were like curious at all, like why is this happening, right? Like, and then you start reading the Bible, I'm curious if that would be the book that most of them start in, just because of that fact.
And if that's the case, you also, I mean,
really set them up for failure
shouldn't.
because it's just
Yeah.
rules of what not to do, and
You also can't eat bacon,
those
and you
rules
can't
don't
eat.
even apply to you. You know
Garrett
what I
said
mean?
we don't start there, but that's where we end up. It's interesting. And I think the thing with Leviticus that a lot of people don't realize. So Leviticus is the Old Testament laws, right?
It's the law.
So the law was abolished when Christ was crucified and raised from the dead, because you're now not. Yes, it says in the New Testament that you should still submit to governing authority. You should still submit to the law of the land. But now you're to submit to Christ. Like that's your law now. You know what I'm saying? So like
Mhm.
those were Jewish laws. So you're not
Like, it's like the
you're
first
not
2
held
books
to that
tell, like,
standard.
the start of the world and then how the Jewish people became to be in their own land. That's the first 2 books. The next 3, because the 5 books is the law, right? The first 5 books of the Bible is the law. The next 3 are all the rules of Judaism, essentially. Like, obviously, there's gospel in there, grant. But the next 3 are essentially just the Jewish rules, and there's a lot of them. And none
Oh,
of
that's a good
that does not apply
that's a good point.
to us as Christians.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't want to say that. You could almost, I mean, you could not read Leviticus and you would be perfectly fine. I think it's important, it's important for history, it's important, like that's how
And the
that's how the
first
Jewish
5 books are
people
all, I mean, really, a
is.
lot of the Old Testament, it's just history.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a good point. Just curious, Garrett, what makes you end up there? If you don't mind me asking. Or how do you end up there? I guess is a better question. It makes for it really tough, like when since it's the new year, like everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people start like Bible in a year in January. Well, it's like you read Genesis. I think you normally go like Genesis, Matthew, or it'll read some from Genesis, read some from Matthew, and then it just kind of keeps working its way through. So you get through Genesis, get through Exodus, and then you hit Leviticus, and it's like, oh my Lord, like it just comes out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Then you hit Numbers. What's next? Deuteronomy. It makes it tough. That's kind of another thing I wanted to talk about too. I think it's interesting with it being the new year, and maybe this is not everybody, but I think it's very interesting that a lot of times, we make all these resolutions, and most of the time I would say that Christians make some kind of resolution that deals with the Bible or something along those lines. And I feel like the one that involves the Bible or the one that involves your faith is also often the first one to get dropped. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like it's a lot easier, and it shouldn't be at all. But I feel like a lot of times it's a lot easier to fall back on reading your Bible than it would be to fall back on being active or being like going to the gym, eating better. Like I feel like we put it. I don't want to say we to pull everybody into the same pool, but I feel like a lot of times as Christians, we kind of put stuff like that on the back burner, like it's not as important. A prayer would be a good one, like for me, because like I struggle with consistently trying to, like I always say, man, I wish I could get better at praying. But then it's like, well, what are you doing? Like I have to think to myself consciously, like, well, what are you doing to get better? Like, are you praying more to get better at praying, or are you just asking the Lord to do it for you? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think a lot of times we put more emphasis on the things that we shouldn't put emphasis on. Because I think if we put more emphasis where it's supposed to be on Christ, everything else is going to fall into order, because like that's got to be our first priority, right? So that should be the most important New Year's resolution. And I don't like New Year's resolutions, but that should be the most important thing that we should strive for year after year, day after day, to get better at, because that's the most important thing. You know what I'm saying? That shouldn't be something that we just throw out first, you know?
Yeah, Kenneth, I've heard this before. Kenneth says making prayer a conversation rather than reciting the same things every night is hard for me. Um, the thing with prayer, and I'm not like an expert about it, Brock. I think I'd struggle with this just as much, if not more, Brock. As far as like making prayer a daily routine thing. Like I pray when I think about praying, but it's not like every day I'm praying about something. And like prayer shouldn't always be like, hey, I'm struggling or help me, or why do I feel like this, blah blah blah. Like prayer can also be like, thank you. Like this was clutch. I woke up and Leslie had waffles in the toaster. Thank you, God, for putting that on her heart. She is awesome. Thank you. That's a prayer. Like that's a prayer. Or you could either be like on your way to work, like, thank you, God, for letting me get to work without death. Because she didn't do that, Destiny. Don't believe that. That's just an example. Don't hype her up when she don't need that hype. Okay. All she needs to do is just work on that baby and feed herself. That is all she needs to do. Okay. I'll make my own waffles. Thank you, Destiny. I do depend on her to make tacos though. But like you can say a prayer for anything at any moment. It doesn't need to be on your knees, eyes closed, saying the Lord's Prayer, right? Like it should be a conversation. And like I feel like it's one of those things. If you could just kind of get into a habit of doing it, it wouldn't be hard to think about. But it seems to be hard to make it a habit for a lot of people, by myself included. I'm a much better reader than I am prayer. Praying person. I'm a much better. That doesn't sound good either. I'm much better at reading than I am at prayer. But you can pray at any moment. And like there was one thing when I was in college. I was in a Christian fraternity, and there were some guys who were like wanted to go to seminary and be a preacher, and like every time they would pray it would just be so eloquent, and you could tell they're trying to make it eloquent. I always got on my nerves about these people. But and then like if I was praying out loud, it would be like, God, man, I don't know what's happening, but I just need you to put something on my heart, because I don't know what to do. I have no idea. I don't know where I want to go. I don't know what goal I have. I'm just kind of lost, and I need you to give me something. I don't know what it is, but I need something. And that's it. That's the prayer. I was like, it's in Jesus' name. Amen. And then one of my brothers, like they were kind of laughing at me for this prayer. And then one of them goes like, what was that? And then the other guy goes, hey, God knows what you're trying to say. That's all that matters. And I was like, that couldn't be more true. Yeah. God knows what you are trying to say. And just by you trying to talk to him, he's got you. He hears you. He hears all of those things.
Well, it's like this, just like that story in the Bible where it talks about you've got one of the religious leaders over there, and then you've got this. I think he was a tax collector, maybe, and he was over here praying, and the religious leader was like praying out loud, like, God, thank you for not making me like this tax collector over here, or this sinner over here, and it was using that as a reference, like that's not how you pray, because the sinner's over here praying, Lord, forgive me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not about beating your chest and saying all the right words. You know what I mean? This is good. So here's the thing. So you are bad because I'm bad. And I know that.
Bad.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm bad. You know,
I'm bad.
Yeah, Michael Jackson.
Ron's
that was
bad.
actually a Christian song, believe it or not. He just didn't know it.
Seriously though, like, we're all bad. We all fall short of the glory of God. You know, we're all sinners.
It's felt like a Ring Around the Rosie song.
We don't let, just like just like Shelly said, you don't let anybody tell you that. Click it. Don't let anybody tell you that you're worse than anybody, because you're not. Like, we're all sinners, and we're all going to be held accountable for our own sin. So my sins know better than your sin. You know, we're all sinners. We all fall short of the glory of God. And I think, I know we've had this conversation on here before, but I think, that's one thing that's harder, because so obviously, homosexuality, you can see that from the outside, right? Like, you can see somebody.
And I would argue that sin, for some reason, is put up on a pedestal a little bit,
right? And it shouldn't be.
No, it shouldn't. And that's not saying like it's cool, but like I do think that is put up on that sin in particular is put up on a pedestal far more than others, and it's hard to make it very clear like we're all on the same level. Like if the thing is though, like if you ask me if it's okay, I love this person, is it okay, like I believe in Jesus, and then I'll come back with like the act, if you're acting on it, it's fine to love that person, but like the sexual act of it is not. Like that would be like you asking me, I love somebody else that's not my wife, is it okay if I get with this person? I love them. I believe in God. It's not okay. It's still a sin. You know what I mean? That's the same scenario. But homosexuality kind of gets put up on this pedestal, and then everybody has an opinion on it. And it's unfair. Like, it is unfair.
Right.
It is unfair. But that's what the case is.
And I really do think, and it's obvious that a lot of times they get heat from the church. They get, and I say church
my first talk with Garrett and Colleen, I'm like the church, like a lot of churches have done such a poor job, and like just Christians in general, of communicating love to gay people in general, because that's what they should be shown, love. Yep. Doesn't mean that you're okaying what the same person sex. That doesn't mean that you're like okay with that, but like you should only show them love. All Jesus did was around people who sinned all the time. And if they asked him, is this okay? Good, like he would be like, well, you wouldn't ask me if you did think it was okay. That's probably what he would come back with. Yeah. Right. And yet he would love these people unconditionally. He would die for them. Like he would get tortured, for, and it's the church has done a very, very poor job of that in general. And it's sad. It's sad, but like
a good friend of mine, he moved not too long ago. Name's Brody. So we used to work out together a lot at the gym, and he told me, we got in a conversation one day, like after the workout, and he said it's something that's been on my heart and something that I've been thinking about recently, and there's a couple coaches at the gym that are gay, and he said something that struck me the other day as I was watching one of these coaches is he said, if Jesus walked in the gym right now, he said, I would dare say he's not going to come over here and hang out with me and you. He's going to go hang out with that person. He's going to go hang out with the group of lost people that's hanging out in front of the whiteboard or wherever. You know what I'm saying? Like he's not, and that really struck me that, when you're wherever you're at and the people you're around. I mean, if you're with a group of Christians in a setting where there's a bunch of lost people, chances are Jesus wouldn't be hanging out with you. He would be over there trying to reach the lost. He would. I mean, it's the name of this podcast. Unashamed. Like he wouldn't be. Obviously, he can't be ashamed, but you get what I'm saying. Like as a believer, like he wouldn't be huddled up with his little Christian friends. Like he would be over making friends with all these other people that need him. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That just really, ever since he said that, that's something that I not because they're worse than me, not because they've got the plague or anything like that, but that's one thing that I try to do when I do it with everybody, but I try to make it a point because they know that I'm a Christian. They know what I stand for, and they're living that lifestyle, and I try to make sure that I show them kindness anytime that I can. Again, not because I'm better than them, not because they're worse than me, but just so that if the opportunity ever comes up, excuse me, if the opportunity ever comes up, they're going to say, well, Brock is a Christian and he's always treated me nice. He's never turned his nose up to me. He's never judged me for being the way that I am. You know what I'm saying? Like people are going to look back at the way that you've treated them. If I've been hating on this coach, or I've been, giving her weird looks or turning my nose up to her or whatever, if I've been doing that, and if she ever comes up to me and asks me about the gospel, or if I ever get a chance to share Jesus with her, she ain't going to listen. Why? Because I hadn't treated her like a Christian should treat her. You know what I mean?
No, she probably thinks you're an a-hole.
Yeah, for sure.
Beck goes, I used to think that he was with his disciples all the time, so I don't know. Yeah, his disciples were his followers. But like I want you, if you can go read all of like where Jesus went or what he did, like the woman at the well, he's by himself. He tells his disciples, hey, you go over there, I'm gonna go over here. He does that all the time in the Bible. You guys chill here, I'm gonna go over here real quick. And he sees the woman at the well, tells her everything she's ever done, and then she goes off and just can't hold it in and tells everybody, gets Jesus in trouble. The centurion soldier, you know what I mean? Like he goes and like talks to him and out of the blue, and then he's like, just by your faith, this boy that is already healed, right? The girl that puts all the lotion on his feet, and all his disciples are mad, and then he starts washing somebody else's feet. He's not hanging out with his disciples. He's showing them this is what it means to be Christ-like, so they can go do it and show other people. So it's like that's how you spread the word. It's not just the Bible. You're showing people what it means to be Christ-like. And all of that is getting recorded by two of the disciples, You know what I mean? And I know Luke wasn't one, Mark wasn't one, but these are his followers. He's not hanging like and what Brock's saying is like you avoid these bad people because they're bad. You avoid the prostitutes because they're prostitutes. They're gross, right? Like you avoid thieves or like criminals because
Yeah.
they're scary, right? You don't talk to these people. You just stay with your own people. And he consistently would go out of his way to talk to those people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not at all. I apologize if I came across like saying that he didn't hang out with his disciples. Like, yeah, he was teaching them, like John was saying, and I think it's very important to surround yourself with like-minded individuals and surround yourself with other Christian friends. Like, I think that your core group of people in your life should have similar beliefs.
He's not saying like these are the people you live with.
Right.
But he's saying you should not be afraid to speak to these people.
Right.
And show them what it's like, what being a Christian is. Because they might not have another example of what a Christian would look like. Right. You might be the only example they encounter on a day-to-day basis or a week-to-week basis. You might be the only example. And maybe there's bad examples that they've had before, and you're sowing good seeds that weren't sowed before. But if you just hang out, like if you just stay with your people and you don't, like the people at work, you just talk to your people, and like these other people, or like she's gay. I don't talk to her because she's gay and I don't believe in that. Right. Like that's all that person sees. Mm-hmm. They see that you're too good to talk to her because she's a certain way. Right. And that's what Jesus consistently did not do. Dad says Sevon's going to steal our viewers. Well, we're rocking at 10 right now, Dad. We got 10 loyal, faithful viewers. If it goes down to 5, it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great to have Christian friends.
Maybe we're going to steal viewers from him. How about that?
Maybe we're going to have him on the show one day.
Ooh, it's going to be a different show.
Dude, I enjoy hearing him question things sometimes. Now, sometimes, he gets a little. Sometimes some of the comments and it's not just him, just other people. It's almost
crude.
like
he's crude.
It's almost like a lot of times people, and again, it's not just him, just on the topic. A lot of times people just crude, like you said, they'll just throw little jabs, you know what I mean? Like act like it's all a big joke, And I get it. Like it a lot of times it does frustrate me. But my dad told me one thing a long time ago, and he said you can't expect somebody who's not a Christian to act like a Christian. And so I try to keep that in my mind.
I would argue Sevon's pretty open-minded with things.
Yeah, no, he really is.
I think if you give him
I try to keep that in my mind.
You give him something to think about, he will do the due diligence of thinking about it. Mm-hmm. Now,
honestly, like this is a weird.
Go ahead.
Weird comparison, but I think him and Joe Rogan are a lot alike in that aspect. Like very open-minded. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
very open-minded.
Like actually, they'll question a lot into everything that's given to them. I don't think he's just cemented in his opinions. I do think it's very hard to get him off of the opinion that he has. Yeah. Right. But I do think he would put thought into anything given to him.
Mm-hmm. Does he have an episode where it's somebody? I know he had that Jared Ellis guy on not too long ago, but is there an episode that he has of just straight talking Christianity that you know of?
No, I don't know. Off the top of my head, I don't know.
Just curious. Because I think that would be like, I do think I think somebody like a Savon or like a Joe Rogan or somebody like that, the person who speaks to
He's
them
gonna
about
love
it,
putting those two in the same echelon. That's,
the person
I think
who
somebody like a John Young or a Matt Fraser, like that's what you just did, like, which is crazy.
If he ever did have somebody on to talk about that, like it would need to be somebody who's very well prepared and very well versed. You know what I'm saying? Like not
Yeah.
just an average, not somebody like me. I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't work because God can speak through anybody.
You got to get
But
somebody willing, though. I don't know if
yeah,
I don't know if John MacArthur is going to listen to Sevon. You know what I mean? True. I don't know if he's going to sit through that. He probably would. John MacArthur's a good guy. I feel like he would. We just never see him in that atmosphere. So
yeah, I think that would be good, and that could be a good.
Well, get him on there. You got John's number. Hit him up.
MacArthur?
Yeah, tell him come on down.
Yeah, I'll hit his line.
Dude, you know what I would love? I would love. It would be like, I think we would have to do like a pre-show saying like, this is the show, the farce that is this guy. Okay, it's not attack of Christianity. I want to show how not Christian this guy is, and have Joel Osteen on Sevon's podcast.
Oh wow!
Can you imagine how amazing that would be?
Oh, dude, Savon would rip him apart. I feel like,
dude, yeah.
Joel Osteen, Joel would not stoop down this low,
dude. How long would it be until he left the podcast?
Oh, dude,
I'm gonna say 5 minutes.
I was gonna say 5 minutes or 10 minutes,
dude.
No, dude, Savon would eat him alive.
Like Sevon would research him, and then I feel like if I could just have like a pep talk where they're like, "This is really bad. This is not. This is the opposite of what the Bible says." You could bring this verse up. You can bring this verse up, and then just the way Sevon would work him. Sevon is there. He is so skilled at getting people to say things and making them think that they're bringing it up. He's really good. Like he does not get as much credit as an interviewer as he should. Yeah. Peter's also really good at that, Coffee Pods and Wads. But like Sevon is a master at getting people to talk about things that you're like, how are they talking about? Like, how is she talking about it? You know what I'm saying? Dude, Joel Osteen would be amazing.
He stays super calm too. Like even like I noticed, I listened to the it was really kind of, some of it was very hard to listen to, but I listened to when he had Castro on, and like how he was getting repeatedly denied on all these questions, and he was just like, he's very persistent. Like he was like,
then how about this? All right, well, what about this?
Yeah.
All right.
And he said, "Well,
we'll change the topic.
I'm gonna poke a little bit. I'm actually gonna ask a little differently." Yeah. He did very well on like the interview side of it.
If he had Joel Osteen on, I think I would try to be on it. I think I would be like, here, let me do it.
Yeah.
Like I would just have
you
him
be the mediator.
No, I would have him be the moderator. And like him ask the questions and be like, and then I will just be the Christian viewpoint. Then we'll just pose as like, it was just two Christians on a show. There's a different guy. This is you. And then we're talking with Sevon. And then I will just expose him. Like just all out snake oil salesman that you are.
Yeah.
Just rip him apart. And I'll get loud and I'll put my deep voice on. And Sevon will, and he doesn't know me and Sevon, like he doesn't know Sevon's on my team, right? So like, oh man, it's gonna be great.
Yeah, I think that would be good. I think he has. I think maybe in the one that he had Jared Ellis on, he kind of went into it a little bit because if I understand it correctly, he had said for a couple years, like he dove pretty deep into it, like doing his own research, and but
He says that
again,
he's been saved twice. That's what he likes to say.
how he really came to that conclusion, I'm really not sure. I think what a good one would be Lee Strobel.
Mm-hmm.
That is the Case for Christ guy. I think that would be because he used to be a hardcore atheist.
The atheist that turned Christian.
I think that would be somebody like him would be a really good person. That would be, that would be cool. But I do agree. He does have a lot of people. A lot of people mention the gospel, or definitely a lot of opportunities where he's heard the gospel.
It's all just seeds, girl. It's all just seeds.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta let God do the rest. You can't take any kind of like get downtrodden or offense or anything. Like it's just seeds. You just mean the best for them, and you just keep at it, and then God will work in His own time.
I think too. Like if you think about, like we could sit here and say all day, like, man, it would be cool if he would, if Savon if he ever converted, or if he ever became a Christian or whatever. Like, yeah, that would be awesome. But then you can also think about, well, how many times, as many times as I've listened to his show, how many times have I prayed for him specifically and his faith? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Going back to prayer, like I think
this is funny.
It's a very Christian non-believer. That's a good point. That's good. But like things like that, like how many times do we take stuff like that to the Lord?
I think far less than we should.
Exactly. When I think that prayer is probably the most important thing that we can do, and it's probably, as believers, it's probably the thing that we do the least amount. It's good stuff. That was a good one. I enjoyed that. Y'all comment. Y'all were awesome in the comments tonight.
Yeah, y'all are great. If you have anything you want us to talk about for next week, just put it in the comments of this video, and then that's the first thing we will bring up for the next video. We're gonna have 3 people on, so it'll be a little bit more of a round table. Yeah, so just put it in the comments, like and subscribe, all that good stuff.
Yep.
Love God and love people.
Love God, love people. That's all we got to do. Next week, same time, same place.